can make it there. I'll make it anywhere. It's up to you, New York, New York.
How we doing, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast here on Facebook Live and YouTube. I am your host, Richie, riding solo today. Want to speak on some happenings in the sports world. And I want to start this off with the great Alex Ovechkin. Hard to believe that the great one, Wayne Gretzky's record, is going to tumble down. Alex Ovechkin is only 4 goals away from becoming the all-time NHL goals scored leader. And in addition to that, the Washington Capitals are having a bit of a franchise renaissance, as last season, I think they did something that was wise. They traded away some older talent, they got younger right away, and they reopened Ovechkin's window to win another one. And should my New York Rangers be fortunate enough to bust into the playoffs, that is more than likely the first team that we're going to have to deal with. But there are certain records in sports that I feel, for the most part, people view as impossible to get. I would have to think that one of them, which has not come down yet, is Joe DiMaggio's 56 game hitting streak. I personally don't think that'll ever be touched. The closest was Pete Rose back in the day with 44. The consecutive game streak, formerly held by Lou Gehrig, which ultimately got caught by Cal Ripken Jr., that one more than likely will never be achieved. Brett Favre, his consecutive game streak, I have a hard time believing that'll ever be caught, especially in today's NFL, where in the final weeks of the season, particularly week 18, teams tend to rest their starters if they can afford to. So that is another record that more than likely will never be achieved. But Alex Ovechkin, this is special. And the NHL's in a good place right now. I've said it on many a show. Since getting that TV deal, the NHL numbers have been better. They had a very successful Stanley Cup playoffs last year, and viewership is on the rise. Just bear with me. Yeah, Alex Ovechkin right now, it's incredible. I truly never thought that someone would catch Wayne Gretzky. A couple of other ones that will never get caught in sports. Nolan Ryan, 7 no-hitters. No, sir. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. Nowadays, it is more and more rare to even see complete games because of all the analytical value of letting the bullpens decide these games. And speaking of bullpens, my New York Yankees, what a weird game yesterday against the Arizona Diamondbacks, a team that we have some history with going back to one of the more memorable World Series, going back to 2001. It's not so much that the pen blew the game yesterday. I mean, these are things that are going to happen during the course of a regular season, especially early on. I think the real head scratch about all this, well, first of all, The Yankees were gifted the lead on a Josh Naylor error, and they were up 4-2 on the Diamondbacks, only needed to record 6 outs to get the win. And then the fateful eighth inning comes about. But this is what I take issue with manager Aaron Boone. You bring in a lefty, Tim Hill, to face righties. Hill gets in trouble, high leverage situation. Now you bring in Mark Leiter Jr., who's a righty facing lefties. I need someone to make that make sense. There is literally no analytical value to any of those matchups. Now, I get it. I guess Boone just trusts Hill a little more, bring him in. You don't always choose when you're going to be in trouble or when you think you need somebody to come in. But if those were going to be your two guys, one way or the other, and based on the Arizona lineup, it makes absolutely no sense. Eugenio Suarez keeps up his torrid pace, hitting his fifth home run of the season. He has excellent numbers career wise with the bases loaded, and he took one over the wall. Cody Bellinger made an effort to scale the wall and grab it, but it was not to be. Yankees did get a run in the ninth, but ultimately lose 7-5. It's just a game. Yankees fall to 3-1. But I want to talk about the Diamondbacks for a minute. This is a team that going into the year, I felt potentially had the best rotation 1 through 5. I mean, some people might argue that it's Seattle. There are other teams with great rotations. But I definitely feel that this Arizona team, with their aggressiveness on the bases, you bring in a guy like a Josh Naylor who's been around some big game baseball. Suarez is having, like I said, an awesome start to the year. And you have the perennial superstar who is still very young in Corbin Carroll. And you have a team that could really apply a lot of pressure because of their baseball acumen, the way that they run the bases. And, with great pitching, they seem to have the dramatic comeback bone in them. As 2 consecutive days they have blown it up in the eighth inning for comeback victories. This was a very winnable game and one that you would want to pull your hair out if this was in prime heat of the summer and in a pennant race. But you know, Yankees just gotta get off the canvas today. Carlos Rodon takes the bump. And I thought he pitched very well, mixing a lot of his different velocities in game one, and he's going to get another crack at it today. But definitely a frustrating loss. And, I've been very hypercritical of Aaron Boone over the years, and yesterday is another example that I don't understand why you don't bring in the lefty lefty matchup, the righty righty matchup. That just does not make a whole heap of sense to me. But we'll see how the Yankees respond, and it will be interesting. New York Knicks cruising to a victory over the hated Philadelphia 76ers. These hated Philadelphia 76ers are undermanned. And this is a team they're supposed to beat. But truth be told, today's the real test because they have to lock horns with the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are record wise the Eastern Conference's best team, and a team that the Knicks have not really been able to compete with. So today's going to be a big telltale as to where the Knicks are ahead of these playoffs. And I must admit, this is the best basketball I've seen Cleveland play since the departure of LeBron James. LeBron did come back after going to South Beach. He did help them win their one and only NBA title. But this particular Cleveland squad does have a chance to take it all. On a bright side for the New York Knicks, Jalen Brunson has been cleared for basketball activities. They're going to work him back slowly, but it's good to see that Brunson will be available for the playoffs. He is that important for the team. New York Rangers, big game tomorrow against the Wild. And then over the weekend on Saturday, they got a huge one in Jersey against the Devils. Only 2 games out of the wild card spot. The one thing that the Rangers have going for them is that they have more games remaining than the team in front of them. But it's go time for the Rangers. This is the last bit of the season, and we're going to see if the Rangers can do enough to sneak in. Wild got a good hockey team, as do the Devils. None of this is going to be easy. This is definitely a hole that the Rangers created for themselves, but we're going to find out if they can overcome this. As always, anyone who watches my show or views my post on socials knows that I am all about the NFL draft, mock drafts, and things that are coming down the pike. So, another day and another draft. Just bear with me here. I'm just kind of scrolling through to pick this up. All right, incoming. All right, here we go. Those were the overall results of the one that I did today. I traded back twice with the New England Patriots and then with the New York Jets, ultimately still getting Shador Sanders for quarterback. And I am not against Shador Sanders, but one thing is this: if the Giants are going to get him, I should say, I feel that it is imperative that they make sure it's for the right value. Now, right here, I got Shador at 7. Like I said, I traded back with the Patriots and Jets. Jets got a lineman. Patriots got their man, Abdul Carter. Second pick of the draft, since you're not going to get Travis Hunter, I go out and get a quality corner that you could put opposite of Paulson Adebo, both with the potential to be number ones. I'm talking about Benjamin Morrison. In my opinion, the most balanced back in this draft, Omarion Hampton out of UNC. This was one of the picks that I was able to require. And then we go Donovan Jackson, a position of need, which is guard for the Giants. At pick 99, Elijah Arroyo. Why not? Last time we went to Miami for a tight end, it worked out rather well, talking about Jeremy Shockey. Getting some help for Dexter Lawrence in the middle, Omar Norman Lott out of Tennessee. I missed out on my target, Mondone Jr. from Georgia, so I got the next best player, in my opinion, from Kentucky at the linebacker position. Depth pick, a guy who could possibly start down the road at offensive tackle. And then I get our, in my opinion, plug and play competitor starter right now for the center position, as JMS has not been terrific. But there's a lot to happen in these next couple of weeks leading up to the NFL draft. Um, in this particular draft, it's going to be Shador at 3 or trade back or take the best player on the board, and maybe Shador gets picked up by the Raiders or the Saints. The more I'm looking at these mocks, it seems like the Raiders are not going to go all in on quarterback since they did sign Geno Smith, but it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. Last burning thought on the mind, I want to tip my hat to the San Diego Padres on their really good start. But my God, how can anybody really beat the Los Angeles Dodgers? When I look at the depth on the team, Otani isn't even pitching yet. It's just scary. It's scary on so many levels how deep this team is. Today, Blake Snell takes the bump, but I look for weaknesses on any and all teams. And I must admit that it just seems harder and harder to find a weakness on this Dodgers team. And that, quite frankly, is really scary. Coming into the year, I predicted that the Los Angeles Dodgers would be repeat champions. I stand by that. I think the American League is wide open. And even without Garrett Cole, with the additions my New York Yankees made and with the love that they gave the bullpen, I think the Yankees still have a great chance of repeating as American League champions. And there's no shame in losing to the Dodgers. I just don't think anybody's going to beat them this year. And then you have to watch out for a three-peat ultimately the year after that. This particular year, given everything, I think the Dodgers have a legitimate chance to go down as the greatest, winningest team in one particular season. Of course, that would knock out the 98 Yankees, who, in my opinion, are a top 3 all time baseball team. But going to be very interesting to see how that all plays out. Curious if anybody got fooled on April Fools yesterday, if there were any really good jokes out there. Something that I did see that was rather funny, the new 2K wrestling game. You got to love AI. They had Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless versus LeBron James and Shannon Sharp. And I think the most comical thing of this is that the two old guys were actually winning. In no way ever could that possibly happen And when I think about the kind of no nonsense guy that Shannon Sharp is, I really hope he doesn't see this. But pretty comical nonetheless, as anyone knows. There's been a lot of back and forth banter between Stephen A. Smith and LeBron James. And quite frankly, I don't think either party is completely correct. In Los Angeles, LeBron approached Stephen A. during the victory they had over the Knicks midway through the game, and a bit of a shouting match. Well, you know, Stephen A. wasn't really matching LeBron in reference to some of his comments about Bronny, more so about LeBron James on the parent end. And I believe that when you start attacking somebody on the parental end, it's kind of fair game at that point for the response. I'm all for critiquing players, and I think most NBA fans feel that Bronny shouldn't have been taken that high. The influence of LeBron, I don't really think I have to say it. We know how powerful he is, but I think Stephen A. played it wrong in that regard. You got to keep it to sports and not go all the way in. But look for us in the near future with NFL ramping up with the drafts. We're going to start dropping some of our mock drafts, going a little more in detail and really honing in on so many of these talents that are coming out of college. It's a really exciting time for all these people. It's life changing for all these players. And, one of my goals here during baseball season is to bring you shows. I mean, I've been doing a lot of solo bits lately, but to bring you a ton of shows as the course of the season goes on. Baseball is every day up until late October. So, we're going to be bringing baseball hard and heavy for the remainder of the season. I do want to make it a point to get out to Steinbrenner Field to try to see the Yankees. I think I'm going to wait out until late summer, probably August, to go check my guys out. But, to see the Rays, because the only time I see the Rays is when they play the Yankees, in an outdoor stadium is actually quite refreshing and kind of cool. I mean, the Trop did have its value because of how hot it gets in Florida, but to be frank, quite the eyesore. I just hope that Tampa is able to keep the Rays because I know that Montreal definitely wants a team back. And it would be a grand loss if Florida was to allow the Rays to leave because they've been a really good organization. And since their inception, really. And right now, they actually, in the super early going, are in first place. They're a half game against ahead of my Yankees. But until next time, I am Richie, making a point to check out the V Mix. My guy Idris Salam throwing down his mixes, classic soul, hip hop, rock, pretty much every genre of music. And we're working on getting some more attention here for the show through that avenue, as we're all, cutting promos and doing commercials over there. Check out the Basement Show with Johnny Nast 5 days a week. These guys don't sleep. These guys go hard. And the Casual Convo Show every Wednesday from 8 to 10, where you can see my guy, Idris Salam, yet again, and the beautiful Miss Coco. So definitely give those podcasts a look. Definitely trying to support our peers. Until next time, I am Richie. Have a great day.